She's so fine. Hell of a hell of a blows my mind. Hell of a hell of a lights my day.
What's good, guys? Happy St. Patrick's Day to everybody out there. I definitely had my green on today, as I have Irish roots. As you can tell, this video will be regarding the Shanquella Robinson case. And specifically, I want to take a very close look, at the concierge's interview statement he gave to the investigation agent. Now, this is just my opinion. And when I give my opinion, I tell you it is just my opinion. But I believe that this interview statement reveals more about why this happened in the first place. Okay? It hints to why this whole thing happened. Let's go ahead and dig into it. This is my statement given to investigation agent Milian in reference to the facts that are being investigated today, after informing me the reason for my presence and the interview. So he knew up front what he was getting into. I have been employed by Redacted, or Cabo Villas in the U.S., where I work as concierge in attention and customer service. I provide service, assistance with doubts, any service that is needed for approximately 3.5 years. So he has worked for this company, or Cabo Villas in the U.S., for 3.5 years. Okay? On October the 28th of 2022, this is the day before Shanquella Robinson's death, I had been informed of the arrival of some guests to the villa Casa Linda 32, which is located in Padre Quino, Puerto Fundadores, Puerto Los Cabos, San Jose del Cabo, and Cali Padre Guillon. He doesn't say how many, he just says some guests, okay? The day before, I was sent the work schedule of the villas that we are to take care of as concierges. So I knew that the guests of the Casa Villa Linda would arrive around 3 o'clock p.m. on October the 28th of 2022. The main client was Daejhanae Jackson, with phone number, and it gives her phone number, which obviously is changed now, who contacted me around noon by text message to report that her flight had been delayed due to the weather, and that she would be telling me her new arrival time, confirming to me that it would be at 17:19 p.m. Back it up. We're going to take it step by step. He says that he knew some guests were coming. They were supposed to be there at 3 o'clock on the 28th. And the main person in charge of all of this was Daejhanae Jackson. And she texted him around noon saying they would be there at 3 p.m. at first. Then she texted him at noon. Get that straight. She told him they were going to be there at 3. Then she texted him at noon and said, hey, hold up. We're not going to be there until 5:19 because of weather. All right. Then she asked me if, after arriving and taking the transportation, she could stop to do some shopping, to which I responded that there is no problem. Then she told me that she would be letting me know the time they were going to arrive. Now, you got to watch your pronouns here. She says then she asked me if, after arriving and taking the transportation, if she could stop to do some shopping, to which he said, no problem, cool. Then she told him that she would let him know what time they were going to arrive. All right. See, at first it made it seem like it was all her. Then comes the they. Okay. So that lets us know that they're all with her. Whoever she traveled with are all with her. Now, she texted me when they left the shopping center. She arrived at Casa Villa Linda around 2000 hours. So she got there at 8 o'clock p.m. I had arrived at the villa, this is the concierge speaking, about 15 minutes before. And upon entering, I see a person of slim build, African American, about 1.75 meters tall, or 5'8", about 25 to 30 years old, to whom I introduced myself, since he had stated he wanted to know who I was. I told him that I'm his concierge and that I will be supporting his vacation and everything he needs. So he gets there 15 minutes before Daejhanae and whoever they is. He arrives, walks in the villa, and sees a 5'8" African American male, slim build, 25 to 30 years old, who asks him, "Who are you?" He says, "I'm the concierge. I'm going to be taking care of you while you're here." All right. Goes on to say, also at the villa were the chef and the waiter. Because remember, they were having dinner. And these people are also employees of the company, redacted, and co-workers of the concierges. Moments before, when I saw the guests, I was surprised, since I wasn't aware that there were guests already at the villa, to which the chef told me that two people, a couple, had arrived at the villa a few hours before. However, I only saw the male guest, described above. Let's back that up. So he gets to talking to the chef, and the chef tells him, "Oh no, there's a couple that came. A couple." Didn't say two separate people. It says a couple that came and have been here for a couple of hours. So if they landed at 5:19 and now this is 8 o'clock, a couple of hours, they could have also been on that flight. We don't know. Or did they fly separate altogether? And who is they? Who is this couple? And what we do know is that there's video of Shanquella Robinson in the pool swimming. And we'll get into that. Let's get back to the statement here. Now, it goes on to say, I prepared my registration sheets, the information I have to provide to the client, guacamole, tortilla chips, margaritas, and I waited for the main client, Daejhanae Jackson, who arrived almost immediately in Trascabo's transportation. They got off with their groceries, bottles of alcohol and tequila, put down their suitcases, started taking pictures of the villa. So he did everything he needed to do, got everything prepared for Daejhanae Jackson, made his guacamole, made his margaritas, had everything ready. They come in, set their suitcases down, and they're immediately probably in love with the villa and taking pictures of everything. Okay? Nothing odd about that. They looked excited. In total, 5 people arrived. 3 women, 2 of them African American, and 1 between African American and mixed Latino. Of them, the main one, named Daejhanae Jackson, who is of sturdy build, tall, dark skin, with a thick voice. She was accompanied by 2 male guests of African American descent, both of slim build. One of them had dreadlocks. All right, let's back that up. 5 people came. 3 women, 2 of them African American, and one of them, he says, looked like they were mixed with Latino. Well, we know who they are. That's Daejhanae, that's Elise, and that's Winter. He says the main one was Daejhanae Jackson. He describes her perfectly. She also had 2 male guests with her of African American descent, slim build. One of them having dreadlocks. That's Malik. I introduced myself to the main guest, Miss Jackson, as he calls her, as her concierge, and welcome her. I asked her if she would like to see the villa and show her to her rooms, along with some of her guests or friends to decide who would stay in the rooms. We returned to the dining room, to sign the documents that he had prepared for them, which consisted of guest registration, insurance included in the villa, and residential complex rules, and provide a copy of each one of them, registering the following: Khalil Cook, Malik Dyer, Winter Donovan, Shanquella Robinson, Elise Hyatt, Daejhanae Jackson, and Nazir Wiggins. Illegible. Investigation agent Million in this act. And I don't know what that means. That's sort of an odd piece to this statement, but regardless, we're gonna break this down. So they all come. He describes all of them to a T, the Cabo Six. He introduced himself, welcomed them, asked them if she wanted, Miss Jackson, wanted him to show her around the villa and let them pick out their rooms or what have you. Then he also gave her a copy of all the paperwork that he had presented for her. And he lists all of the guests that was on that registration sheet that we've all seen. The main guests stayed in the master bedroom, which is located at the end of the living room. Now, what some people were reporting on YouTube, which was not true, was that Shanquella Robinson was running the show here and she's the one that books the room. No. We didn't know that information. Yet people were real happy and eager to put that information out, and it was not true. It says there are 2 rooms. At the end of the kitchen is a TV or entertainment room. Then an access with an open area, which connects 3 more rooms. The first room on the left is waterfront, and the other room on the right is also waterfront, and the third room, which is a double, is not waterfront. Being this at the end of the garage. All right, so he's just describing the rooms, saying which ones are waterfront, which ones are not. I went to the room of the main client, Miss Jackson, which is the master, to mention to her that dinner was ready since 20 hours. So it's been ready, dinner's been ready since 8 o'clock. And that if he needed to be extended, their time, they would be charged an extra hour, which she did not agree to, and sent everyone to dinner since everyone was settling in her room. Minutes later, they all sit at the table and begin to drink a lot. That is when I met Miss Shanquella, who was the last one to approach the table to celebrate, noticing in her a strange, illegible attitude. She seemed to not fit in with the others. When I introduced myself, she did not greet me or smile. She was indifferent. Nothing to do with the atmosphere of celebration. She was out of place at that party. I made sure that they were seated, having dinner, sharing and celebrating, and that they had the information for the internet, the audio, the operation of the house. Once everything was ready, I left. All right. So he goes to Daejhanae and says, look, dinner's ready. If you guys are going to be a little while, and we have to hang back, we're going to charge you an extra hour. So she's like, no. She sends everybody to dinner. They all come in there, and Shanquella is the last one there. The concierge specifically remembers how Shanquella was when she came to that table because she didn't fit in. All right? That makes me incredibly sad. That tells you, in my personal opinion, that something had already happened. Something had already happened, okay? Now, all of the clients, chef, redacted, with phone number blank, and waiter, with phone number blank, stayed in the place. The next day at 1350 or 1352 hours. So at 1:30 or 1:50 rather, or 1:52 hours, the concierge received a text from the main guest, Miss Jackson, asking me if I'm available and which was the nearest medical service. I greeted her and asked her how I could support her and if she was looking for a hospital. She answered yes. Quote, I think my friend has alcohol poisoning and needs emergency service and someone to speak or translate in Spanish for us, end quote. I offered to send her a doctor as so he, this doctor, could determine if it was necessary to go to the hospital. And I told her that that doctor speaks English. She answers, quote, yes, please, end quote. I tell her that it costs $100 for the visit, plus the medicine. I ask her if she agrees, and she answers, quote, yes, as soon as possible, end quote. I tell her that I will make the call to request the service, to which she answers, quote, yes, please, end quote. Let's back it up. Hold up. Let's not get too far. At 1:50 or 1:52, Daejhanae Jackson texts the concierge and says, hey, need some medical service. I think my friend's got alcohol poisoning. We need somebody to speak Spanish for us or translate. And where is the nearest medical provider? He tells her they have a doctor that could come there. It costs $100 plus the cost of medicine. And she said, that's great. Go for it. Around 2 o'clock on October the 29th, I called Dr. Redacted, who is our contact for medical attention for our guests and whose telephone number is redacted. And in about 4 minutes, Miss Jackson texted me asking what I had been told. And I answered her that a doctor is going to contact her to check her friend. And she replies, quote, okay, end quote. It goes on to say, attached to this is a screenshot of the conversation with Miss Jackson and himself, where she asked him for the medical help. And the conversation is recorded on 3-letter sized sheets of paper attached thereto. All right, so 4 minutes later, she texted him back and said, what did they say? And he said, they're on their way. She says, okay. Goes on to say, at 16:25, which is 4:25, blank, redacted, texted me and told me that the girl has to be hospitalized because after being evaluated, she is in serious condition. And the doctor said no. All right, goes on to say, at 16:25, 4:25, redacted, texted me and told me that the girl has to be hospitalized because after being evaluated, she has to be hospitalized and that her friends were finding out if they had insurance. To which I asked if she is in serious condition. And the doctor said no, but that she does need an IV, that she is practically unconscious, and that was why she had to be hospitalized. Later, let's back this up. Okay, 4:25, the doctor texted him and said that Shanquella Robinson had to be hospitalized. She needed an IV. She was practically unconscious, but the doctor did not consider that to be a serious condition. Okay, that has thrown me for a complete loop. A complete loop. He specifically asked that. Later, the administrator, blank or redacted, with telephone number redacted, called me to ask if I had requested an ambulance for the villa. I told him no. He tells me that security of Puerto Los Cabos is asking him about the request and access of an ambulance to Casa Linda number 32. Later, redacted, called me to tell me that the guest had died and asked me to go there as soon as possible, that he is already on his way to help in whatever he can. So the administrator texts the concierge and says, hey, I've got security for Puerto Los Cabos asking me if we requested an ambulance because they're wanting access to Villa Linda 32. The concierge says, no. Well, then he calls him back and says, hold up. The guest has died. All right. He says, get over there as soon as possible. I'm on my way. So the both of them are headed to Villa Linda 32. Goes on to say, I went to Puerto Los Cabos from Cabo San Lucas after having spoken with redacted. Upon arriving at the villa, I find a couple of municipal police officers talking to redacted in the parking area of the house. And one of the guests, who was of African American descent, regular build, short hair, was coming and going from the house and calling by cell phone a relative or friend in the U.S., using redacted as a translator. I also saw the main client, Miss Jackson, making contact with the male guest and on several occasions entering and leaving the house. During this time, I am waiting for redacted to tell me what to do, since he is my concierge team leader. So I enter the house, where I initially observe the guest, relaxed, calm, sitting in the living room area near the bar and dinner table. All right, let's back it up. So when he gets there, he sees a male of regular build with short hair coming and going out of Villa Linda 32. And he's on his cell phone talking to somebody from the U.S. Then he sees Daejhanae Jackson. And she, too, is coming in and out of the house. He's waiting on the administrator, who is his concierge team leader, to tell him what to do. He goes in, sees the guests, just says guests. They are calmly chilling, sitting on the couch near the bar and the dinner table. Goes on to say, my purpose was to look for the guest, the main guest, Miss Jackson, and give her my condolences. When I talked to her, I gave her my condolences. She thanked me and told me that they had talked to her friend's mother and mentioned that this was so fast, quote, to lose her in an instant for having had too much alcohol, end quote. I asked her if I could give a hug, to which she said yes, and she gave me a very indifferent hug, very cold. I saw a very sad guest, a skinny girl, and I saw she was in pain. I left the area and stayed outside the main entrance to give them space to mourn and grieve. Minutes later, I heard laughter. I approached redacted, who told me to leave to go back to my villa in Cabo San Lucas, that he will be in charge of following up and supporting the clients and the authorities. I said goodbye to the clients and I left for Cabo San Lucas. All right, let's stop there. His whole intention here was to go and send, personally, as a human with emotions, tell Daejhanae Jackson, look, man, I'm really sorry about your friend. He did that. She said, thank you. He asked her if he could give her a hug. He said he got the cold, indifferent hug from Daejhanae Jackson, but he noticed a skinny girl who looked very sad. That, to me, is a description of Elise, okay? She's quite a bit smaller than the other two. That's real talk. And he said she looked sad. So he was like, you know what? Out of respect, I'm going to step outside the main entrance here and give them some space Their friend just died. They need a minute, you know. He goes out the door, and what does he hear? Laughter. That boils my blood. Okay? How foul is that? All right. He talks to his administrator. He says, hey, I got it from here. You need to go on back. I'm going to handle things and wrap it up here. He tells everybody goodbye and he leaves. Goes on to say, later, around 2100 to 2130 hours, the main guest contacted me to request transportation to go to dinner because they had not eaten anything all day due to the situation. So I called Redacted with phone number Redacted, who owns Lands End Transfer, requesting transportation for the clients of Villa Linda 32 to San Jose to go to dinner because they had not eaten anything. The driver advised of his departure from Villa Linda 32 to San Jose del Cabo to find a restaurant for dinner. At the end of the service, the driver, Redacted, with phone number Redacted, reported via audio message on the WhatsApp chat of the Lands End Transfer Group that the service had ended and that he had left the guests at the airport hotel. All right, let's back that on up. So he's already back where he needed to be. But at 2100 to 2130 hours, he gets a text from Daejhanae saying, hey, we're hungry. We need some food. We need some transportation to get some food. We need to know where to eat. He says, no problem. I'm going to call this company. They'll come and get you guys and take you to get something to eat. The driver goes and finds a restaurant, comes back to get them, picks them up, and takes them to an airport hotel. The next day, Redacted called me to tell me that the maid was reporting there was no one in the villa, that if I had been notified that they were leaving, to which I replied no. That the day before, they had only requested transportation to the center. So later, around 11 in the morning, I sent a message. Guess who? To Miss Jackson. To offer my support, asking if everything is okay and if there was anything I could do for her, without getting a response until the next day, Monday, October the 31st of 2022, when she texted me asking if she had to do anything else for checkout. Did she need to sign anything? I could email it to her, as they had already left. Later, she asked me for the property manager's number, so minutes later, I sent it to her. Days later, I found out there is a lot of controversy because of the news and the video of the main guest, Miss Daejhanae Jackson, hitting her friend Shanquella, the guest who died. When I saw the video on social media, I realized that practically the main guest, Miss Jackson, had manipulated me with the information she provided of what happened to leave the country as soon as possible. It should be noted that she put the name of Nazir Wiggins as the last person on the guest list or registry. Let's back this up. He texted Daejhanae, all right, at 11 o'clock the next morning, asking if everything was okay, because nobody's in the villa. He's wanting to know what the hell happened to him. Offering his support. Didn't get a response until the day after that, which was Monday the 31st. And she just texted him and said, did she need to sign anything else to check out? That they're already back in the U.S. Then she wanted the property manager's number. And so he sent that to her. Then he said it wasn't until days later, when the video came out, that he realized exactly what had happened here. Daejhanae Jackson had manipulated him to say whatever so that she could get out of the country they could get out of the country as quickly as they possibly could. And then he wanted to make sure that the investigator knew this, that she, Daejhanae Jackson, put the name of Nazir Wiggins as the last person on the guest list or registry. So that's not saying he was there. It's just saying, hey, Daejhanae Jackson listed him on there. All right. Now, what sticks out to me the most in the concierge's statement is the entire part about these two people who the chef described to the concierge as a couple arriving at the villa a few hours before the other guests, before anybody. And that's strange to me because, number one, as far as we know, none of the people that we know to be there is a couple, okay? So it makes me wonder, it makes me curious if when Shanquella Robinson was skinny dipping in the pool, was her phone just propped up stationary, like on the chair out there by the pool, and she was kind of swimming around in the pool? Or was her phone actually moving around as if somebody is recording her in the pool? I thought I had that video saved. Apparently I do not. And I wanted to get this video out there. I can eventually find it. But if someone has that video, if you could please just send that to me. My email is at the very end of this video. I would greatly appreciate it. Because that's a big question to me. And if the phone is moving around, who is that person? Is that what caused the friction between Daejhanae and Shanquella Robinson? This extra person that maybe wasn't invited and showed up, or wasn't invited by Daejhanae and showed up, or maybe was invited by Daejhanae and became interested in Shanquella. Like, what happened here? It leads to a lot of different questions. Please believe that we're going to continue to break this 18-page packet down. We're not going to stop here. But I'm going to end the video on that note. If you haven't already subscribed to the channel, go ahead and do that. Hit the bell for notifications. And everybody have a great day. Thanks for watching.